my body had been brain dead for 3 days. So while I'm off playing in heaven, my body is dead, is brain dead. And my brother, he was so worried about how my mom was going to handle this, and she didn't know yet. They were afraid to tell her. They wanted to know for sure if I was going to live or die before they told her. So my brother, he was there, he's giving a special prayer over my body. He commanded my body to be made whole. He commanded my soul to come back to my body. And when he said amen, when he closed in that prayer, I felt almost an instantaneous return to my body. I was going through this journey. I could see far off what looks like a planet. And as we get closer and closer and closer, I'm realizing it's more of like a sun. And then we get closer and closer and closer, and I realize, no, it's not a planet, it's not a sun. It's like a planet that's also a sun.
Hmm. That
So
much
in this space, I'm going to call it heaven, because to me that's the only word that matches in my vernacular. So I'm looking at this place, I'm thinking this is heaven, and I can see distinctly mountains, trees, water, this like little lake. I could see just vast forests. And finally, we get down to where I can touch, my feet can actually touch the grass in the place of heaven. And when my feet came down and they actually interlocked with the grass, it felt like the grass went and hugged me.
wow.
And I could feel just, it felt like a million megavolts of love shooting into me the second I touched that grass. I could feel the supreme consciousness in every single blade of grass. But yet at the same time, I could feel the combined loving of all of those blades together, loving me. And the first thing I think of when I'm feeling so much tremendous love is I think there's no way I'm worth that. I can never be worth that. And that's when the grass answered and said, no, you can't be worth this love, but you are worth it because of who created you. You are the master's creation. And they used the term divine masterwork. And that's the way heaven looks at all of us. And I don't care how you live, heaven sees you as a divine masterwork. That's not a free pass to go be a jerk. But what it is an understanding that that love is being poured over us, whether we're pretty good or we're horrible. That love is poured all
Mm.
over us. I could feel that grass coming up and really plugging into the bottom part of who I am, and helping me start to heal the energetic healing from my upbringing. I had a really rough upbringing, very, very abusive in every aspect. And that upbringing, it made me very aggressive towards men, especially older men, like the father type figures. And I would get in fights all the time. Head butted quite a few people out there back in the day. And it was not who I am now by even a sliver. But I was watching this healing going on in just the grass. And that's when I noticed that the grass, it had waves of light like coming off of the grass. I could see just these rainbows of iridescent light just waving off of the grass. And then I noticed that the grass actually had music. It had tone,
Mm.
almost like a little symphony coming off of it. And then when I touched it with with my feet, I could taste like this sweet flavor, this sweet, sweet love of what heaven is. And I'm going through all of this and I'm kind of freaking out. And Drake, he's loving it. He's just over there smiling, watching it all. And then he looks over and he goes, "Vinny, if you like the grass, you should see the flowers." And I was like, "There's flowers? What?" And I was freaking out on him. So he takes my consciousness where I'm plugged into the grass, and then bam, like real quick, I'm sitting on a flower petal of an open blossom of a flower, but it's as if I'm like the size of a bee. I'm just walking around, I'm like running around. I can feel everywhere I touch on that flower, there is light. There's light coming from the flower everywhere I touch. But the flower itself is light, the same way that the grass is light. And I was starting to understand that in heaven, there's no outside sun. There's no outside form of light. Light comes from inside everything there. Everything there is source light. The same way that the sun here is the source of light in our solar system, there, everything is source light. So again, I was kind of freaking out, nerding out on the flowers, and Drake, he's laughing, and he goes, "You should see the trees. You should see the trees." And then I freaked out again. There's trees. Oh my goodness. I was so excited. He was showing me how these trees are like ancient wisdom or the elders in
Mm,
our species of existence on Earth, and how these trees, we think of them as fixed objects. They see themselves as wading in the dirt, like how we would wade in water. They feel like they're wading in the dirt, and they can walk in the dirt. They can move. They just move so slowly.
interesting.
We don't see that way, but they do. And so I was plugging into the supreme intelligence of these trees, and that's when I felt a little tap on my foot. I looked down and I could see this little stream of water had come out from its own stream, and it had approached my feet, and it was touching the tip of my big toe, and I could feel it say to me, "Do you want us on you?" And I was so gung ho about everything. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I do. Bring it on. Bring it on." So the water came up over my feet, but it wasn't like how water is here. Everywhere it touched, it felt it felt like a warm hug and kiss, but it also felt very refreshing, very cleansing, very elevating, very alleviating. And I felt that water come up and encapsulate my entire body. It even went down each of my arms down to the tips of my fingers. And then the last part, it went up and it completed its encapsulation up here on top of my head. When it did
Wow.
this, I felt a boom. As the water came up right here, I felt boom. There was some type of thing that broke. And I'm going to call it my trauma. I felt like that water, it broke my trauma. And what it did over the next few seconds is it went in and it just, patched all the little pieces in my soul that needed patching. And then once it was done, it was done. It didn't say anything. It just sent love as it went back down off my body. But after it left me, I was still dry. So it doesn't have the same properties. It's very much an energetic water compared to, H2O or hydrogen dioxide. So a little different
Yeah.
than our earth water. This is all going on, and then I notice a building. I'm a construction guy. and I see this huge building, bigger than the White House. And I'm seeing this huge building, and I know somehow, I know intuitively, it's built out of one piece of marble. The entire building, one piece of marble. And I can see in the walls living light that's silvery and opalescent and like light rainbows, like flowing through the walls slowly, as if the building is alive with this
Mm.
marble. And I noticed these beings, they would approach a room, and if they could match the frequency or match the love energy of what was going on inside the room would open up and form an opening. They would walk in, and the second they got inside, it would just seal itself. So there was no such thing as a door there. You would have to match the frequency or match the
Wow.
love energy. And that's what Drake was doing for me. For me to get into heaven, I had to match the love energy of that heavenly realm. I couldn't just go there right from Earth. I had to
You had to
detox
shed.
myself
Yeah, you had
from
to
all the
shed some
ego
things.
and all the fears, all the prejudices, all the, inauthenticity. So I was watching this whole function, and I was getting excited. My next thing I was going to ask for was the building. I wanted to go tour it. I wanted to see every room. I wanted to know what they were studying. I wanted to know what the ceiling was made out of and the roof was made out of and the plumbing. I know that seems kind of dumb for probably most people, but for me, the builder who I am inside my heart, I wanted to know how it all worked. And so before I could even ask Drake, he came around to my side. He put one arm on my shoulder and he went in real close to my eyes and he said, Vinny, this is going to be hard, but it's
Mm.
going to be worth it. And right then, he brought me in for the best hug, the best thing I have ever experienced in all of my existence that I can remember. I experienced the best thing to ever happen to me. And that was to be totally embraced with the love my creator has for me. Even though it was Drake, it was my creator's love that he was holding me in. And as I allowed myself to receive his love, I reciprocated it back. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't found my authenticity. If I hadn't left all my prejudice. I couldn't express or reciprocate that love unless I went through what he put me through, what he guided me through. And as this hug was going on, I again heard this boom, like really deep, and then a second one, boom. These two booms, they're very significant. I feel as if in the physical universe here, we would pick up those booms from so far away because they were so powerful. It's almost as if those booms were pulsars or novas. When
Mm.
when a star goes nova, it's like boom, right?
Yeah.
Just power, so much power. And I'm in the middle of this hug. I hear this boom and boom, and the next thing I know, in my left ear, I hear my own brother's voice. He's saying a special prayer over my body. What I didn't know is my body had been brain dead for 3 days. So while I'm off playing in heaven, my body is dead, is brain dead. And my brother, he was so worried about how my mom was going to handle this, and she didn't know yet. They were afraid to tell her. They wanted to know for sure if I was going to live or die before they told her. So my brother, he was there, he's giving a special prayer over my body. He commanded my body to be made whole. He commanded my soul to come back to my body. And when he said amen, when he closed in that prayer, I felt almost an instantaneous return to my body. As if, the whole experience got hit pause and then boom, rewind all the way back to where I came from. It felt so harsh, but it also felt necessary, because if it wasn't violent like that to bring me back, I would have fought it with everything in me. I did not want to go back.
Wow.
But I woke up. I woke up at 1:11 in the morning, 3 days after I went in the hospital in a coma with barely any brain activity at all. I woke up 3 days later, completely normal. At least according to the doctors. My teenager, she might debate you a little bit on that, but I woke up completely normal. The doctors, they started calling me the miracle boy. They wanted to
Wow.
test me. They wanted to ask me, hundreds of questions that we all know about ourselves, like our name, where we live, what's our birth date, what day is it now. The weird thing is, I kept telling them the date of January 18th, but this was January 21st.
Okay,
So it
because it
was
was
3 days
3 days
later.
later.
That was the only question I kept getting wrong, is they kept asking what's the date, and I'd say January 18th.
Wow.
But all of that, it served to make me want to kill myself.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you about the self transitioning
I
aspect of
did.
it.
I wanted to kill myself, and here's why. It's the best explanation is, and I've learned this explanation over the years and trying to express to people what it was like to come back from heaven. To me, it was as if you were born blind, you were born without arms and legs, you were born without eyeballs, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, for 3 days, you get to have all those things. You get to use arms and legs and hands and eyes and see and feel and experience things that you've never knew were possible. And then at the end of 3 days, someone says, "Hey, come on, we're putting you back in prison and we're taking all of that away from you."
Mm.
That's what it felt like. So I was very suicidal. At the same time, I could speak with spirit, and Drake, he was bugging me. He was saying, "Vinny, I told you it's going to be hard, but I also told you it's going to be worth it." I
So you
would
could
go on
still
the
speak
internet
to him.
looking.
You would still speak to
Yes,
him even though back in your
I speak to
body.
him right now. Yeah, I
Okay.
speak to him right
Okay.
now. But I was looking at the most dangerous jobs possible, and I was going to go be a crab fisherman, or I was going to go join the Navy SEALs, or I was going to go and be an underwater welder, because that is, at least back then, that was the most dangerous job in the world for Americans. So I was going to go do that so that I could have my, happy accident and go back. That's what I wanted. I wanted that above anything. And as I pursued that, I ended up meeting someone. I ended up meeting my angel. I ended up meeting a woman that when I first saw her, when my eyes met hers, I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. We both froze for 3 minutes straight. We just sat there, dumbstruck. We didn't know what happened when we first met. And, only 7 days later, before we had even been on one date, we knew we were going to get married. We knew that God had arranged our marriage and
Mm.
that we were going to get married.
That's a blessing. I hope I
Um,
experienced that.
Well, here's what's funny. We all want something like that, but then when you have it, you can't find problems in each other
Hmm.
because you have to realize God chose you for each other. So you have to learn how to get over anything that bothers you with the other.
Mm.
I have it easy. I can't find anything wrong with her. She has it hard. There's all sorts of stuff can find wrong with me. So I got to be really nice all the time. But the blessing of all this is she brought out a different side of me. She brought out a version of Vinny who wanted to be with family. And that wasn't me. I hadn't been that way for 5 years, but she had brought that side out of me. She inspired me to want to be a better man. And in
Wow.
that process, she convinced me to go to a family reunion, which I hadn't been to one in maybe 4 or 5 years. So I go to this family reunion. It's in this little town in Wyoming. I'm watching a presentation there about the history of the town, and then bam, there's Drake on
Mm.
this huge, huge movie screen. They're showing pictures of the founders of the town, and there's Drake. But here's the problem. It said his name wasn't Drake. It said his name was Charles. So
She like, that's straight.
I was like, how is that Drake? But it says his name's Charles, and how is this working? I recognized the last name though as my grandmother's name before she got married. So I went straight from there to her house, even though it was a little late at night for her. I just came like barging into her house and I was like, Grandma, 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 tell me about Charles Kazare. Tell me about this guy. And she goes, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of
Mm.
famous.
Your ancestor.
And
So your ancestor was your
yes,
guide.
yes.
Wow.
But an ancestor that I never saw once, I never met. I
Yeah.
never, of course, I didn't meet him. He was my great, 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 great grandfather
Yeah.
on my grandmother's side. Even my grandmother only knew about him because of the work he did before she was born. Um, she told me all about him. She told me that his name was Charles, but if you were a very close friend or you were family, you called him Drake. And that's how he knew who you were to him. So what you were
Wow.
calling him, it let him know the kind of persona he needed to be with you. Even though he was authentic, he wanted to kind of distinguish
Yeah.
family and work, right?
Yeah.
So I find all this out. I'm freaking out. I have a doctor who tells me, no, 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 Vinny. Everything you saw is a hallucination. That's your imagination. It's just filling in the gaps. Don't believe any of it. And I have that side of my brain saying that. And then over here, I find out who Drake is.
Wow.
And that was enough for me. It kicked the other voice out. It kicked my ego, fear, self judgment voice out. And it said, no, this was real and you need to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And from that day forward, I've worked to do that. Am I even close to perfect? No way. But do I try every day? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Every day I try to live up to what I learned. And I still work with Drake. I work with
Yeah. I
Archangel
was gonna.
Michael. I
Yeah.
work with Yeshua, who we call Jesus. I work with him by his real name. And, I really study scripture. I study holy writings. I study Aramaic, Cyrillic, Hebrew when I can because I'm passionate about the material. I'm passionate about holy writings anywhere I can find them. Um, it's important that we strike a personal relationship with our Creator. And I'm a firm believer the reason that heaven had to spit me back out is so that I could remind all of us or anyone who is willing to listen, that we have a divine heritage, every single one of us, and that we need to remember who we are and live in remembrance of who we actually are, and
Mm.
stop getting distracted with what we see on our phones, and
Yeah.
dive into the intuition and stay away from the television. It's like
Mm.
we've got to, because with the television, someone else is telling the story. With the intuition, God is telling the story.
So
But
how
that's my story.
how can people could you're working with your ancestors, you're working with Archangel Michael, you're working with Yahshua. How can people work with them, or do you, is part of your work helping them to connect with them so they can get healing?
Absolutely. So I have a podcast, the Living God's Light podcast. I've got, two amazing hosts that work with me, really amazing people, Alyssa and Lynn. And then I've got my book that I wrote with Lynn. And so we do that work, but then I do one-on-one work. It is a paid one-on-one, but I do have a scholarship program. And the individuals who get in there, it's about a 1 year wait list for the scholarship program. But I work with as many people as possible. I do about 15 to 20 hours of scholarship sessions a week, and then I'll do 35 to 50 hours of one-on-one sessions additional to that. So, it's, to me, it is a tremendous blessing every day that my heart beats, every day that these eyeballs open up, every day I wake up to these fingers, these hands, these toes, these legs. The face, maybe we could do something different with that, but the rest of it's pretty good.
Right.
And I feel so grateful, and that I say that in jest. I'm grateful for everything, including my face with my headbutt scars all over it. Um, I'm
You're all
so
right, man.
grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful that I get to wake up every day and I get to be a testament of how much our Creator loves us. And I know for a fact, and this will probably piss off some people, but oh well. I know for a fact our Creator loves us better than we could ever love our own children. I
Wow.
know that.
Yeah.
And if we could never show heavy prejudice towards our own child, why do we think our Creator would ever do that to us?
Wow.
We are the divine, precious masterwork. We are. And all the proving and the testing and all that, it happened before we got here. This is the party. This is us getting our reward. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, most of the time, but
Yeah.
this is our reward, is to come here to learn how to live outside mom and dad's house, to learn
Prodigal
to make
son.
choices. Yes. And what I love about the prodigal son is, we could be any of the three people in the prodigal son. We could be the bad son, making all sorts of mistakes, but the bad son still had the self grace to go seek out his father, even to be a servant unto him, even to sit and eat with his father's dogs. He felt it would be better than how he was living. So that took some self grace and not no pride, because pride wouldn't let him do that. But then pride on the good son. The good son's looking at his dad like, "What the hell, dad? I made all the right decisions and you're rewarding my brother who squandered his inheritance and gambled it away and made so many mistakes." Or we could be the father who looks to the good son and says, "All I see is where I thought I had lost a son. I have now found him, and in this I will rejoice. So kill the fatted calf, put a silver ring on his hand, let me take off my beautiful jacket and give it to my son. That is how much our Creator loves us. If we're the good son, of course our Creator loves us. If we're the bad son, of course our Creator loves us. And that reminds me of Yeshua when he was being tricked into to stoning a woman. Without answering with his words, he gets down in the sand and he writes in Aramaic, he writes, "Let they who have no sin pick up the first stone."
Mm-hmm.
And therein lies the love our Creator has for us, that we're not going to be perfect. And that if we think we need to judge others, that we're doing that out of imperfection and self-judgment. We're not doing that because we actually think we need to judge others. We're doing it to try to hide our own judgments.
Yeah.
But when we truly love our Creator, we can't judge anything that the Creator has made. None of it.
That's beautiful. Now I have one last question. So I don't know
I
whether you
I have
heard.
one last answer then.
Okay. I don't know whether you heard, but today was the rapture. Today was supposed to be the rapture, like all on the internet. Everybody was like, today was going to be the rapture and Jesus was supposed to come back and we were all supposed to, well, those that are saved were supposed to, be lifted up. Did you hear about that, or you're not in the
I
deep parts of the
I've
internet?
no, I like to do. I love rabbit holes, so I have to stay
Yeah.
out of them. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
My spirit, the deeper I get in a rabbit hole, the less I can hear from spirit, but the
I like
more I
that.
can hear from fear. Fear loves those rabbit
Mm,
holes. That's why rabbits
they
dive
do,
into those holes.
because they're
But
scared
here's something that strikes me is no man shall know the date or the
or
time
time.
of
Right.
my coming. No
Right.
man shall know the date or time. So I look and I say, is that a man or a woman that's saying that date or time? And if it
Right.
is, I go, you don't know.
Right. Right.
But I've even caught myself because spirit will show me certain things and I'll think, well, that must be this date. That must be this date. And as soon as I want to say it, I can hear it in my head. No man or woman will know the date or time. Even the angels themselves
The
don't know the
angels don't
dates and
know.
times because only God, the one source creator of time,
How
our
about that?
creator is the only one who knows time. And here we are with our Apple Watches and our phones, and we think we know time. We don't know time.
Yeah.
We think in hundreds of years and tens of years. Our creator thinks in trillions of years and millennia. But one thing that I do know for sure is going to happen is long before we see a Christ figure show up in the outside world, we are going to awaken the Christ in the inside world.
Yeah.
And when we, as a society, start living at the 144,000 hertz frequency, which is one of the highest frequencies, which is the selfless service, giving to others frequency. When we are living at that frequency, we are inviting the Christ to waken in us. And then there are so many of us living in the Christ. There is an outside Christ. Other religions will say it's Buddha. Others will say it's Muhammad. Other religions, do you know what though? Our creator is going to come down and not going to try to correct you for what name you're using. But our Creator is going to come down and say, I love you. I missed you. And buckle up, because this is going to get fun. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm very excited about that. Now, as far as Rapture, I have watched more than 7 people die in the last 10 days in my personal connection, my personal
Wow.
circles. Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm jealous of all of them.
Oh man.
I'm jealous of them. But at the same time, I lovingly bless their express trip to heaven, a quick trip to heaven. Get there as soon as possible, because Earth needs them back here in spirit form, helping us awaken the Christ in as many of us as we can. Because we have this little window. If we don't awaken our Christ, we give in to the beast. The beast is all the worldly energies. And that's okay that the beast exists. We live in these flesh temples, but if that's all we think about is what is in the flesh temple, and we completely forget our spirit self, our soul self, that is giving into the beast. And if we do not waken the Christ in us, we will embolden the beast. And there is a silver-tongued serpent talked about in the Bible. The
Yeah.
silver-tongued serpent that will be in the back pocket of every person. Silver-tongued serpent right here.
Yeah.
And if you think that's not a problem for you, don't use your phone for 3 days. Then tell me it's not a problem.
Right.
Try. Our world is in for a tremendous decade. Tremendous. We will see more done in the next 10 years than we have seen in the last 1,000 years, the last 2,000 years. And it's all going to happen right in front of our eyes, miraculous as ever. But not if we're walking around like this. We're
You
only
gotta
going to
look up.
see the television. We're only going to see the vision that someone else tells us. But we've got to look up for the intuition, for the I am inside of us giving us vision. That is the future. But we have to choose. If the first thing you do when you wake up is you grab your phone, that is your religion. If you're going to bed and the last thing you touch before your head hits the pillow is this is your God.
So how should people end their days and begin their days then?
Prayer and meditation.
Yeah.
Prayer is where we speak to God. Meditation is where we listen. Prayer is like driving up to the Starbucks drive-through and ordering at the little speaker. Meditation is pulling up to the window. Time is the price we pay to receive. So give God some time to give you answers. Don't go up to the order box and order what you want and then drive home and complain that God never gave you what you ordered. You got to give yourself time at the window. Give yourself meditation. And if you don't know how to meditate, I've got a couple of pretty okay free meditations on my channel, Living God's Light podcast. But there's a lot of really great meditations out there. But meditation is very important because if you can't quiet the mind, you can't listen to God. And think about that. In today's world, do you have a quiet mind?
Right. Mm.
Not if you're involved in politics, not
Yeah.
if you're involved in in sports, not if you're involved in finance or what I call executive gambling.
Yeah, right.
You know, we don't get to have that quieted mind when we're so invested in these other religions. And yes, those are religions. Politics is a religion.
It
Sports
is.
is a religion. Executive gambling, aka finance, is a religion. We can do those things, but we don't need to start our day and end our day with those. We can start and end our day with prayer, with supplication, with meditation, even with just sitting quietly and taking deep breaths to quiet and calm the mind so that we can hear the voice of our Creator. We can hear the intuition, the tuition inside. What I love is one of the oldest words for God is Abun in Aramaic, which means cosmic birther of existence, or Yahweh, which Yahweh means inhale, exhale. It means breath. The Yah,
Interesting.
the way. The Yah,
Mm.
the way.
That's
We need to
interesting.
give
You said
ourselves
that
time and space to breathe.
because in Genesis he says like he puts the breath of life into Adam.
Yes,
Like he blow like wow.
yes.
Yeah, I just made that connection. Yeah.
Here's what's really neat.
Woo!
When we have a big problem in our life and we decide we're not going to be gods ourselves, but let our Creator be our God and carry the heaviest of obstacles and problems and trust our God carrying those things. The little God inside of us wakes up. And now we can hear. Now we can understand. But in our heart and in our mind, we cannot hold love and fear at the same time. There's only room for one channel at a time in both places. So make quiet space through breathing, through Yahweh, to bring in the breath. Because what happens when you stop breathing? You lose consciousness. So what happens when we breathe? We receive consciousness. Breath
Wow,
is it.
that was beautiful,
We don't
man.
need to have
That
a
was
fancy
beautiful.
we don't need to have a fancy vision. We don't need to have fancy connections to God, to our creator. But through our breath, we can hear the still small voice, the beautiful voice of our creator. With that I
Wow.
know. I've lived this since 2003. Not perfectly, but I'd say 80, high 80s%. I live on a high average with it all, and I couldn't live any other way. No possible way.
Well, thank you so much, Vinny, for your wisdom. Like,
Yes,
it's
absolutely,
definitely
Erica.
like mind blown. I'm gonna have it in the description and everything, but definitely tell the people where they can find you on social media. You mentioned your podcast. Like, how can the people find you there? Because
Yeah,
they definitely need this information from you.
check us out on YouTube or where you get your podcasts. Just type in "Living God's Light" podcast. We're there. We're a little one. We're not super huge, but that's great. I like it how it is, and I've got hundred over 100 interviews out there on podcasts and YouTubes and radio and TV, and you can find me through our website, livinggodslight.org. You can connect, you can follow, you can subscribe to our email list so you can keep abreast of any activities and events. We throw a couple of conventions each year. We also go to the IONS convention annually, as well as I participate in quite a few retreats each year
Okay.
all over the world. So yeah, come, seek, connect.
For
And I'm just
sure.
talking about God, nothing about me.
Right, right,
Come,
right,
seek, connect.
right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Vinny, for taking the time out to be on the pod. I definitely appreciate you. I know the audience is going to love it and appreciate you. As for me, make sure y'all subscribe and follow Vision Rebirth on
Yes.
all platforms. Make sure you follow me, the underscore real E, on all platforms. Thank you again to Vinny. Thank you again for listening. This is Vision Rebirth and cut.